It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about over the weekend, lots of headlines, lots of stories, lots of polling, lots of stuff to grab your attention, to make you think, hey, there's a big horse race going on. There's a big horse race going on, and Trump's beating Biden, another national poll. And because look, you need the horse race, need the profit motive, need people to get all worked up and say, oh, Trump's going to win. Here's the thing: the Biden camp hasn't really even started campaigning much. They haven't really made their case yet, so it's kind of like, our mainstream corporate controlled media needs something to blather about, and what they're talking about, a lot of right wing talking points. And here's the thing, and this is the part that gets me. And there's a bunch of this CBS poll that I want to talk about that has grabbed my attention. And look, this has everything to do, and I blame Democrats. This has everything to do with the fact that Democrats don't compete in the spaces to talk to people. They just don't seem to do it. I don't know why. I'm not quite sure what the sense is. But right-wing media is extraordinarily powerful in this country. There are a whole bunch of cable news outlets that pander to the right. There are, entire networks of podcasts that are completely put out. On the left, not funded, hardly at all. And this is where you go, rich people don't spend money that they know they're not going to get a return on. And, well, the billionaires on the right, they know where the return is. They know if they can keep the American people all lathered up and angry, profit. And this is one of those things where you go, Democrats need to do a better job of messaging. You need to do a better job of having platforms for messaging. Because here's the weird thing, and I've had numerous conversations over the last several weeks with people who are going, the economy sucks. Biden's destroyed the economy. And I go, do you remember when everything was shut down? Do you remember that? Do you remember the last 30 years of struggling? Did you forget that, we've been having a hard, did you forget what Trump voters were saying in 2015 and 2016? Did you forget all of that? Because here's the thing. When Trump was president, he didn't make their lives better. No, they're still angry. Go ask them. They'll be happy to tell you. In fact, I know lots of Trump supporters. They're still angry. And the thing is, I know a bunch of them, and they've gotten really good raises over the last year. Their pay has gone up by a lot, and still angry. And still angry, and it's Joe Biden's fault because it's what they hear all day long. It's what they're spoon-fed. It's all around them. So if all you hear is Joe Biden sucks, Joe Biden did this, it's all Joe Biden's fault, you begin to buy it. And look, I'm not saying people are stupid. I'm saying they're hearing one side of the story. So if all you hear, if I get you in a room and I get to talk to you for hours and hours and hours, eventually you're going to come around to my side of things, because naturally you're going to, well, it must be true. And if you have an entire infrastructure set up on regurgitating that message time and time and time again, reinforcing that message time and time and time again, setting up a think tank network to come up with bad ideas and bad information so that you can, through your talk radio and cable news, continue to hammer it out there. And then, of course, the mainstream corporate controlled media, they need something and they're lazy. They don't want to go out and work for it. So they just take what's given to them by the right wing media. And then we're surprised that the headlines are all skewed and well focused in that direction. And look, I don't want to sound conspiratorial because But this isn't a conspiracy. This is reality. This is the reality of why a rich billionaire or a bunch of rich billionaires would spend money on funding messaging vehicles because they know the return on investment. On the right, they do this. On the left, not so much. And as I said before, on the left, they try and fund elections. They fall in love with people. They get behind candidates and they send huge amounts of money to candidates because we're going to finally take out Mitch McConnell or Lindsey Graham, and it's never going to happen. But there's hope. Instead of taking that money and burying it into infrastructure so that you could actually compete for the hearts and minds of people on policy. Because here's the part that blows my mind. And I'm going to talk about this CBS poll that just because they asked a bunch of questions. They asked their registered voters, and again, a lot of these polls are skewed by who your target demographic is, where you did them, what phone calls you made, all that stuff. But it's an interesting little exercise because they asked, how is the economy under Trump? And people look back, and during Trump, 65% said it was good. The current rating's 38%. So this is the thing. They thought it was great while it was going on because understand, the Obama economy was handed to Trump doing pretty well. And then they heated it up with massive tax cuts for the wealthy and an infusion of money into the economy by deficit spending. Now, here's the weird thing, because again, this is, I remember Econ 101, where you deficit spend in times of trouble. The first 2 years of the first 2.5 years of the Trump times are okay, pretty good. They were because the economy was doing well, coming out of Obama. The policies were coming along. Did you need to deficit spend? No. That's when you're supposed to pay down the debt that you deficit spent in times when they were bad. Bush left office. The economy's in a mess. We had to deficit spend to keep the economy from collapsing. And then we slowly worked out of it. And did Trump a pretty good economy. And Trump heated it up with massive deficit spending. And again, this is where my Republican friends, who right now seem to care about debt and deficits, I think should sit down, because they were all in favor of these huge tax cuts and all of this deficit spending when it was their guy doing it. And without really understanding what the policy perspective was and where that money went. Money went a lot to rich people. A little trickled to the working class a little bit. But the mass of it went to corporate America and the wealthy. And that didn't trickle down. That just got hoarded. And we made the wealthy wealthier. And good for us. We've got more rich people than anyone else on the planet. But the thing that gets me is you go back and you think about what they did, and it didn't help working people. So this other question that this CBS News poll asked is, their policies. Will their policies make prices go up or prices go down or have no effect? Well, because we're told to believe Biden inflation. Biden, obviously, they said because of Biden's policies, prices are going to go up. Trump 34% said they would go up. That they would go down 17% for Biden, 44% for Trump, because magically Trump is going to figure out how to make the prices go down. I think the people who got it right are the people who said there's no effect. Biden, 27% of people said no effect with his policies are going to up or down. 22% said the same thing for Trump, because corporate America does this. It's the greedflation that we've gotten kind of used to. Now you go, will Trump come in and crack down on them? No, not even a little bit. And this is where I come back to. It's the reinforcement from the right-wing media that keeps saying, no, Biden, it's all Biden's fault. Like there's a magic switch in the White House that you go, I want inflation. No president wants that. Oh, but it's his policies, Rick. He spent money investing in infrastructure. He spent money reshoring manufacturing. He gave poor people $1,400. Never mind the fact that Trump gave a lot more than that. But never mind reality. Another thing that grabbed my attention in this poll, they asked, who fights for people like you? Is it Biden or is it Trump? And interestingly enough, more people thought Donald Trump was fighting for people like them more than Biden, which is interesting because Trump has shown time and time again to care about no one but Trump. Look at all of the people in his cabinet who have been thrown completely under the bus and are going to be bankrupted or jailed or who knows, careers ruined because they had association with Trump. Look at Mike Lindell. I gotta, oh, it just is what it is. But it's that perception. It's what we're constantly told, what's hammered into our ear all the time. It's what we're spoon fed with. Those Trump policies, they care about you. Because remember, and this is what I said back in 15 and 16, Trump has got his finger on something that is real. Working people are struggling. Working people are having a hard time making ends meet, keeping a roof over their head, food on the table, shoes on the kids' feet, the whole 9 yards. He tapped into something, that real anger. And what's interesting is we seem to forget that anger. Well, some of us. Some of us who are saying, things were better under Trump, and Trump really cares about us. What did he do during his 4 years that made your life better? Nothing. There was a lot of show. There was a lot of flash. We had infrastructure. In fact, Infrastructure Week was a joke. We had Infrastructure Week so often, it was literally a joke. Because nothing got done. We had some photo ops, some cute photo ops. Trump wearing a big hat or, driving a truck or doing all kinds of weird stuff. And it was all about him. It wasn't about actually fixing the country. And this is why the other question that they asked, who has a vision for the country? Does Biden have a vision? Does Donald Trump have a vision? And Biden was split 50-50. The people the registered voters that they polled, 50-50, Biden has a vision for the country. Yes, no. The Trump folks, 63% said Trump had a vision for the country. And I'm struggling with what that vision is, because remember, they wanted to repeal and replace Obamacare, right? The Affordable Care Act. And we never did get to see what the replacement was. He had a magnificent, a beautiful, a perfect, an incredible healthcare plan. It was going to cover everybody. It's going to be cheap. It's going to be fabulous. Infrastructure. He had a wonderful plan. He's going to do it all. Got nothing. Never saw a plan. And we can talk education. We can talk healthcare. We can talk all that stuff. There was never a plan. There was nothing there. There was a crummy sales job. There was a con job, but nothing there. And the reality is he's not Mr. Art of the deal. He's made a lot of crummy deals. But we want to believe, and I had this conversation with somebody the other day. We want to believe that someone cares about us. Because again, we've been told by the right-wing media that Joe Biden doesn't care. The guy who's probably closer to all of us than Trump is by a mile. A guy that put on those Obama comfortable shoes and walked a picket line while Trump had I don't know what that was, at a non-union employer where they had the employer out there with auto worker signs. I don't know. But what I do know is we're in a weird moment where nothing seems to be really honest. For instance, they asked in this poll, should Trump get credit for overturning Roe versus Wade? Now remember, Trump has come out himself and said he did it. He alone. He overturned Roe versus Wade. And I got to tell you, I think he did. When you put three crazy people on the Supreme Court who are ideologues, who were tried and true tested to make sure that they do what they're supposed to do, which is overturn Roe. The people polled said only 19% said he should get credit for it. 33% said he should get blamed for it. And 48% said neither. Now, if you're on the radical right, you should be going, no, he gets credit for it. And if you're on the left, you should be, no, he's to blame. How do you come up with 48% saying neither? That's why I don't have a lot of faith in these polls. But it is a snapshot of what we're being sold. And that's the important part here. It's what we're being spoon-fed, that there's this horse race going on. And I got to tell you, the legacy of the Trump administration has been the death of shame, the death of being, held responsible. Perfect example. J.D. Vance, a guy who was literally against him before he was for him, and now, well, in the bag for him, making threats. He tweeted out, quote, "I have a long memory. If you're fighting Trump and his endorsed candidates politically today, don't ask for my help in a year with your legislation or your pet projects," which means if you don't do what I want you to do, if you don't do what I say you have to do, I'm not going to do my job. Even if you come to me with the greatest idea ever, nothing for you. Now understand, this is the weird part here, because he's saying if you're against Trump, nothing for you. He again was against Trump before he was for him. In fact, said that Trump might be America's Hitler. Wrote that in the text. He tweeted out, and it was the cosmopolitan conservatives like Moore and Kudlow who shamefully apologized for him. Yeah, he did that. He also wrote, in 4 years, I hope people remember that it was those of us who empathized with Trump voters who fought him most aggressively. And now saying, if you're against Trump, nothing from me. What changed? What am I thinking? What am I thinking? Is the best democracy money can buy while it lasts? And this is, again, the weird spot of where we are and why I'm frustrated with where we are. Because understand, these people don't quit. Our media structure is broken. It's about spoon feeding you a narrative instead of facts. It's creating a narrative and then doing some polling to get to what you wanted. It's doing all of these things backwards. We've got this narrative we've got to sell. So it's a horse race. Biden's in big trouble. And I hope people believe that. So I hope they really get out there and vote. I hope Democrats get their heads out of their tuchuses and get moving. But we are in a very weird moment. And the hope is that we're all paying attention to what we're being spoon-fed. I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Gonna take a quick break. Right back.
I've been driving buses for 5 years, and my day-to-day routine is I wake up a little earlier than most people. I get on a bus, I go out, I pick up some students and make sure they get to school nice and safe. Here in Fairbanks, Alaska, that can be a challenge because of the winter weather and the icy roads. But I love the job. So the Teamsters are great. They provide us a lot of protections. They've always taken care of their people, made sure that our jobs were secure. We didn't have to worry about whether or not we'd have a job from day to day.
And that's amazing because before we'd be working 4, 6, 8 hours a day and only earning minimum wage was real difficult to make a living. And then the Teamsters pushed the law so we make something we can live off of and not have to have a second job. What absolutely gives me peace of mind, the union membership allows me to focus on this job without having to worry about whether or not my family is going to be taken care of. I'm Andrew Case, and I'm proud to be Teamsters Local 959.
So interesting piece of legislation banging around in the House in Kentucky. House Bill 500. And again, this is another one of those anti-worker pieces of legislation to chip away at what had been hard fought gains for working people. And understand, the moneyed interest, they know what this means. If they can take and take and take, it's more profit for them. And what House Bill 500 would do is it would end the right of workers to get lunch. It would end rest breaks. It would eliminate pay protections. There's a lot of this that is it's just bad. And now, example, um, since 1958 in Kentucky, if you work 4 hours, you're supposed to get a 10-minute break. For each 4 hours you work, you get a 10-minute break and lunch. Somewhere in between the third and the fifth hour is kind of where they throw that out. And now they don't have to pay you for lunch, but you got to get it so that you can rest, you can do whatever. They want to do away with that. But what they say is, if you can do away with it, but you can have walking breaks maybe. You can juggle, if you can, you're working in the mill, you're working in the mine, you're working where, things are dirty and nasty. If you can, shovel a sandwich down your throat while things are happening, that's okay. But you can't have lunch. And, as I went through this, my mind, as I was reading through what the bill says, for instance, pay protections. If you work for a company that, sends you from one place to another, this would say, well, they don't have to pay you for that transportation, that time. That's on you. And it reminded me of a job I applied for years and years ago. They had a time clock at the shipping dock door. So when the trailer backed in, you hit the time clock, you were on the clock. As you were unloading, you got paid. As soon as that trailer moved away from the dock, you stopped getting paid. Now, you could stand there for an hour, 2, 3, 4. You could stand there for who knows how long. That was on you. You only got paid for the actual time that you were unloading boxes. Never mind, you were there because they want you there. But you only got paid for the actual work you did. And I remember going, no, because that's too unpredictable. And they had a really hard time keeping people. And eventually they changed that because people were like, we're just not going to do it. That was 30 years ago. Now, I'm not so sure because we're looking at laws like this where they're trying to take away what have been longstanding rights. Also in Kentucky, since 1942, if you worked 7 days in a row, you got paid time and a half after that. Let's say you work 4 hours, 8, 9, 10, 11 days in a row. Those days after 7 were paid a time and a half. The idea was not to work you every single day of the week so that you have some time to be home, you have some downtime, some family time, that kind of stuff. This would take all that away. And I'll tell you, I have, I think I might support this in a way. Also, it decreases the statute of limitations for labor violations from 5 years down to 3. Have to throw that in. But there's part of me that goes, maybe we need a swift dose of good old fashioned Gilded Age capitalism. Maybe we need a moment of, wow, this is bad. Maybe we need hey, this is why we need a union. This is why we need a labor contract in every workplace. Maybe this is because they're not going to stop with this. This is just the beginning. This is the beginning of returning us to a very desperate time. It's what they want. It's what they've been working for. It's what they bought our court system for. It's what they're pushing legislation across the country for. And we're going to get those kids back to work too. It's why they're destroying child labor laws. It's why they're doing all the things that they're doing to make work more desperate. And what's interesting, at a time where they're complaining they can't get people to work, at a time when they say, Gen Z, they don't want to work. Well, who wants to enter into this kind of an environment? Now, do I think it'll pass? It may pass. I think the governor will veto it. But the fact that they're putting this out, the fact that they're moving this forward is telling. And it's telling in a number of arenas. As workers are organizing, as we're seeing a resurgence of labor messaging and labor activism, even if we're not, seeing a huge number of new members and union density numbers going up, we are seeing people who are looking at, hey, we should be joining and forming unions. We should be fighting for better wages, hours, and conditions. How do we do that? And look, the UAW is doing an incredible job of really pushing in this moment. They've got more than 50% of cards that signed at Mercedes, which I guess Nick Saban was supposed to go speak at last week. I'm waiting to hear the fallout from that. But they're taking this moment to spend historic amount, $40 million, historic amounts of money to go and organize these manufacturing facilities, Volkswagen and Mercedes and all of those. And as Sean Fain said, look, in 2028, we're not going to come back with just the big three. We're going to come back with the big 5 or 6 because they're going to they're going to organize those places. Because corporate America has gone too far. All of the comments that I've heard coming out of places like Volkswagen or Mercedes is, we don't make decent money. We get treated poorly. We don't get enough time off. This is why I keep coming back to maybe we need to stop having laws that protect people. Because what good is having a law if people don't enforce them? And Republicans have done a great job over the years of defunding enforcement mechanisms, defunding the people who are supposed to enforce these laws. Because I guarantee you right now, there are employers in Kentucky who are violating the breaks and the lunches and the transportation and all of that. I guarantee it's going on. They just don't have the enforcement people to do it, to keep up. So there's part of me that goes, you know what? Maybe we just scrap the whole thing and let them abuse people to the point where we say, you know what, enough. Now, the part of me that goes, no, that's not a great idea because people are going to be harmed. That's where I shoot this idea down. So the hope is House Bill 500 in Kentucky gets shot down and workers there keep their protections. For our Free Speech TV audience, I appreciate you being here. Thanks so much. We'll see you back here next time. For our radio affiliates across the country, quick break. Right back.